Paul Pogba is set to stay at Manchester United this January after rumours of an early release. He's said to be excited about the appointment of Ralf Rangnick and the potential future at Manchester United. The confirmation of the new German manager as interim at United for the next 6 months is expected to be announced in the next 24 hours. And we also want to digest and delve into the bones of the Manchester United-Chelsea game from yesterday. A lot of frustration amongst the Chelsea fan base today, especially surrounding the finishing ability of Timo Werner. Does he have a future, in your opinion, at Chelsea Football Club? We're taking your calls this morning. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your feelings, plus any other football matters or subjects you want us to talk about. Get your comments in now. Let us know what you want to speak about. Phone into the show. This is the Morning Done Deal show on the Terrace. Let's go. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're good. Hope you're well. Good starts to your day. It's the Terrace phone in. Always first thing on a Monday morning, we like to have a phone in show. We try to get as many people on the Sunday as we can, but the green room at the back is just filled up with so many people. Lots of talking points trending across social media this morning. Of course, people waiting for the announcement of Ralf Rangnick. That is expected in the next 24 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer. There's talk about there being some visa issues. It's just applying for a visa and getting clearance so he can be announced as the Manchester United manager. Reports this morning from David Ornstein that Paul Pogba is excited by the appointment of the German manager and is highly unlikely to sign elsewhere in January, still leaving Man United with a chance and opportunity to change the mind of Paul Pogba and keep him at the club. How pivotal could the World Cup winning French midfielder be for Manchester United in the back end of the season? Do you want to see him in the team regularly, United fans? Or do you feel that if he's going to leave, now is the right time to, move him on and maybe not even play him regularly, maybe play him as, as a super sub and as a rotation player and start building the midfield ahead of next season, giving Donny van der Beek more of that game time as a future option. I want to get your take on that today. In relation to Chelsea fans, I want to speak to Chelsea fans this morning as well, because Timo Werner is getting a lot of stick, and I totally get and totally understand why. He's had a terrible start to his Chelsea life. It's 7 goals in around 40 odd appearances. And he had a stinker yesterday. The German had an absolute stinker yesterday. One of the worst individual performances I have ever seen in my life from a Chelsea striker. And we've seen some bad ones over the years, but that was something to behold. And when you actually look back at it, and I watched the game when I got home last night again, he missed, 2 absolute sitters. 2 absolute sitters yesterday. Chelsea should have walked away with all 3 points. Man United essentially shithoused their way to a point in that game. Really positive result. Disappointing for the Chelsea faithful in all entirety. But we want to have you come on the show today and have your say. We've already shared the link on Twitter. We've shared the link in the live comment section here as well. If you're watching over on Twitch, just come across to Twitter. We want to hear from you today. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling and saying about the stories. Fallout from yesterday as well. Let's get to some of your live comments here. Man like a gal says, ready for Thursday social media derby. Yeah, the Terrace from tonight, the live Bet Victor show at 6 o'clock. We're going to start building up to that game. So watch out. Panel's going to be on fire tonight. That game will come quick. I love having midweek Premier League games. It just makes, I love 2 games a week. It just makes my life a lot easier. It's fun. Yeah, it's going to be massive. I'd like to hear from you this morning as well, Gal, if you fancy calling in, brother. Terry, I can't wait to face you on Thursday is what Chris has got to say as well. He looks like he's excited about it. Realist TV here says Werner isn't good enough for Chelsea. I don't think Werner's good enough for the Premier League, point blank. Point blank, he isn't good enough for the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. Now, there's giving someone time, and then there's waking up and smelling the coffee. There's waking up and realizing this man is not good enough. He ain't good enough for the Prem. And I think Chelsea fans have got to that stage with him as well now, where they just know because they know, because they know, because they know. They know he ain't the guy. They know he is just not the guy. And I feel like I don't necessarily think I don't necessarily think that's being ignored. I just think I think it's setting in now. I think it's setting into people's minds that it's done, that it's over. Serim here says, it's not Werner. Chelsea destroy strikers, is what Serim has got to say this morning. It's an interesting take on that. Liverpool have the same amount of clean sheets as Chelsea, but yet apparently Liverpool's defense has not been good this season. So I think what you've got to look at it from the angle of it's not the total amount that Liverpool conceded. It's the level of leads they've thrown away, 2-0 leads, etc. The collapses that they've had. Now, you've got to ring fence yourself, sir, away from collapses at the standard Prem level versus the title chasing level. So when it comes to talking about City, Chelsea, and Liverpool, who you think is going to win the league, you're going to have to nitpick because they're all so good. And if City continue not scoring in around about 28% of their games, they are highly unlikely to not win the league. If Liverpool carried on at the time, conceding at the rate and throwing away leads like they were, very unlikely that they're going to win the league. They've sorted it out in the last 3 games. They've not been doing it. If they continue in that vein, people's opinions will change. No one has said Liverpool are trash or bad. City are trash or bad. We're talking about probably the 3 best teams in Europe right now, barring Bayern Munich, going head to head for 1 title to finish top, that may only be separated by the end of the campaign by 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So it's going to be fine margins, small amounts of distances, inches between them. So don't take it as I think City will come first, therefore I think Liverpool are crap. That's not what anybody is saying at all, my friend. This is elite end spectrums. At the elite end of any sport, the margins are so fine. And we're talking about those fine margins, not a generalization that your defense is terrible. It's not what's being said. That's what I'd say. But I know you're a regular viewer of the Terrace, so I know I can give you this feedback about you being offended. Get out them feelings and listen to what's actually being said rather than your club not getting 100% universal praise, because none of the top 3 are getting universal praise. But that's when it's in an isolated ring fence conversation about winning the title. When you turn around and compare Liverpool to everybody else outside that little group, they're light years in front. And everybody else wishes they had your team performances and levels right now. That's what you've got to look at that as, okay? That's what I would say, Right, let's start going to some calls this morning. I want to hear from some of you. Make sure that like button's being smashed as well, people. We should be flying past 250 likes minimum right now. Let's get that done. We have a member super chat here that says, that's Timo's first full game back from injury. He was in great form until then. He's definitely good enough for the Prem. He's just not a star here. I kind of hear you. But how long are Chelsea fans going to give him? Legit. How long is Roman going to give him? I know he's just back from injury, but what about last season? When is he going to really come good? I know he only cost 45 million, and there are some strikers that cost 100 now. But when you bought him, he was rated as a 60, 70, 80 million pound player. When's he going to come good? First caller this morning, he gals on with me. We've got Raw Football to come on soon, Tactical Red, City Express, and much, much more. As I say, make sure the like button is being here. Igal's here with me this morning. What are you saying, bro?
Chilling, Terry. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, my friend.
I wanted to talk about the game yesterday. I've been saying this. It's not even salt. I've been saying this all year. Chelsea's a really good team. They have a lot of squad depth. They have everything. But are they prepared to really go through the 38-game season? Are they going to be consistent enough? Do they still have the consistency and continuity in the team to know how to play with each other to get them to a league title? Because Liverpool, Man City, majority of that team have done it over the past 2 seasons, where Chelsea have yet to do it in the league. So I still have my concerns and questions about them. That's not even being salty from being a rival. I'm just genuinely thinking I don't think this Chelsea team can do it. this season, and that's not just based off this past game against Manchester United. Look at how they played against Man City at home. They let Man City dominate them at home, and then today, the other day, they dominated Manchester United for majority of the game, but they couldn't finish their dinner. And I'm like, if this creeps up into them for the rest of the season, I'm going to see similar performances to this against lesser teams, and that's where they're going to start losing points out, and the Man Cities and Liverpool is just going to overtake them.
Look, I kind of feel like I I get where you're coming from. I get your point. I would say this about Chelsea: the club's got pedigree of winning the league. They won the Champions League last year, so I feel as though there's a situation where I look at Chelsea and think to myself, I know they've got the staying power. I know that they've got the ability to win things because they have won things already under Thomas Tuchel. I feel like yes, they dropped points against Burnley. Yes, they dropped points against Manchester United yesterday. But in both those games, they were so dominant. The chances created were there. There was, I mean, it was 2 or 3 great saves from De Gea, blocks from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. If the performances are there, it's sustainable. Do you get where I'm coming from? That it's like all of this. It's like all 3 of the teams have got. Like I was saying to the Liverpool fan a moment ago, in title race context, all 3 teams have got deficiencies. They're not deficiencies that are comparable to Arsenal, Man United, Tottenham, but within their own little race and their own little world that they're in, because they're not with the rest of us right now. They're in a different league of their own.
Yeah.
That City sometimes have at times this season struggled to score. Liverpool have thrown away leads sometimes this season. Sometimes Chelsea have been unable to put their opponents to bed. So they've all got these small little issues with themselves. So I wouldn't say that there's any one of those teams that's got an issue. It's only that I think we're only thinking this because Chelsea's issues hit yesterday, and Liverpool and City have had 2 games on the bounce now where they look like they've put those problems behind them. But I'm not convinced yet that we're gonna see City not struggle to score again in 1 game, 2 games time. Liverpool might have another game where they concede some goals like they did against West Ham. I think to say that that's past City and West Ham, right? Past City and Liverpool right now, I think it's a little bit premature. But I do get your challenge completely.
I have one more challenge, Terry. I have a challenge to Thomas Tuchel. Does he start to overthink things like Pep? When you think about his front 3, he still can't figure out what front 3 to go with. Yes, Lukaku's been injured and he's coming back, but I still question, what does he know his best 11? Because he gives Hudson-Odoi a chance, Ziyech a chance, Timo Werner, Havertz, Mount, all these guys are playing in those attacking third, but it doesn't seem like he knows his best front 3. And it's almost like he's in a similar situation to Pep a year ago, where people were questioning if he's overthinking things.
I don't necessarily think so. They've got players that have been returning from injury. Mason Mount, for instance, generally stalwart in the team, on his way back. Lukaku's going to be on his way back. I feel like yesterday, as an isolated example, Tuchel, I think, was a little bit disrespectful to Man United. Almost, it's United. What are United going to do to us? Probably very little. So they didn't play their best team. They didn't start their best team. They didn't go for Man United as I thought they would, and they rued that. Should have made some changes a little bit sooner. But what I've seen from Thomas Tuchel is a manager that when he's made mistakes, he has rectified them. He has changed things up. But it's going to be interesting. I wanted to ask you about Timo Werner.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he's got what it takes to cut it at Chelsea in the Prem, or do you sense the selling of the player come the end of the season?
Chelsea don't have patience. If they don't win the league, they're going to probably sell him. He's going to maybe go back to the Bundesliga and strive again. I just think Chelsea is not a healthy environment for a player who's not succeeding right away. They don't have patience. They're going to sell the player if he doesn't hit the ground running the following season.
Good points being made there. And how are you feeling ahead of the social media derbies? You put it, Arsenal, Man United Thursday. You feeling confident? You feeling nervous? Where's your head at right now on Monday morning?
Right now, I'm just thinking to myself, we can't lose to the Manchester United. We can't be giving you the bounce back that you need. We win this game on Thursday. That is a total of 8 points between us. So we need that as much of a gap that we can get because you're eventually going to get the manager bounce. You're eventually going to come back into that top 4 race, and I want to get as much of a lead as possible. So I'm looking at it from that point of view. I'm not even worried about the banter or anything else. Just strictly thinking about ourselves.
I hear you on that. I hear you. Listen, Gal, thanks for calling in, mate. I'm sure we'll speak later on in the week. Top man, thank you very
No
much
worries.
indeed. Thank you. TJB here says, who's top of the ladder in spite of that? Oh, and Chelsea are. That's why I wouldn't write Chelsea off at all. As I say, I think still my favourites to win the league title as it stands right now. One swift is not a summer make, and I would implore people not to suddenly start writing Chelsea off because of one poor result. And I think that's what's intriguing today. It was a poor result, not a poor performance, or yesterday's result. The Chelsea lineups are changing because of injuries, and in spite of all that, we are still top of the table. We are just fine, is what TJB also says here in another super chat for the Terrace this morning. Thank you, sir. Chris George here says United are overrated. I will say this, though, about Man United. I will say this. I feel like the criticism of United in the past 2 games, forget under Ollie, but in the last 2 games has been so forced. The way people have, Carrick shouldn't be here. He should have been sacked. He should be embarrassed to praise his players. He should be embarrassed after what happened with Ollie. He's got to go. I can't believe United fans are happy after this draw. This is the hangover from Ollie's era. I admit right now I have no faith in this coaching team that are here, but they're caretaker managing until Ralf comes in and starts to implement the future. Now isn't the time to be criticizing the backroom staff and how we're playing, because in the next 24 hours, the new manager is announced. The next stage of growth for the club is hopefully going to start to take place. It's a weird time for people to get overly critical of Man United, especially the pundits. I was listening to the pundits yesterday and I'm thinking, did they realize Carrick's gone tomorrow? He's literally here as an interim. He's literally here. He's literally not even an interim. He's literally here as a caretaker manager. If we'd have sacked all the coaching staff before Ralf came in, there'd be nobody to take training and pick the team. This was always going to happen. It feels very forced to me. It feels very kind of boring and yeah, United weren't great yesterday. And that's why United fans celebrated the draw, because we had no hope going into that game. As you've all said, the likes of Carrick and so should have been sacked for how bad they are at coaches, thus nicking and stealing a draw at one of the best teams in the world. Of course, you're going to celebrate that in an isolated example. So, yeah, I do think some of the criticism of Carrick is a little bit weird this morning. Not that he deserves praise, but just he ain't here to stay, so relax. Let's do some more calls this morning. We're going to go to Big's going to come on the line now. Raw Football Talk is here. What are you saying, buddy?
Oh, good. Can you hear me?
Yes, buddy.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. What do you want to say?
Just wanted to touch a little bit on Paul Pogba. I know he got suspended after the red card against Liverpool, but if he decides to walk, I heard rumors that Real Madrid don't want him. If he decides to go, I don't think he'll be a big of a miss. I think with the new manager coming on, I think players like Van de Beek deserve some time to shine. Obviously, like you just touched on, Michael Carrick is only going to be there for 1 or 2 games. I think we've seen the last of him. So with the new manager coming on, I think players like Van de Beek, even Lingard can shine and can show what they're made of. And ultimately, I think this team has got to a point where Pogba, obviously, he's a key figure still. He's a great talent, but it's not Pogba or bust anymore. So I think that once Rangnick comes in, I think he can definitely implement a team that presses a lot. Utilize someone like Fred, who has, I think the past couple of games, he's definitely done better. He's played like the Fred that plays for the Brazilian national team, where he plays a little bit up top, a little bit forward, and does the dirty work. So I think Pogba leaving might be a blessing in disguise for this United team moving forward.
Yeah, I think you could be. I think you could be right there, buddy, in terms of looking beyond him. I love Paul Pogba as a player. One thing I really disagree on when it comes to a lot of United fans is if Pogba leaves, we finished as a club. That was a kind of narrative running in the summer, and it kind of made me laugh because by that logic, in 5-6 years' time, when Paul Pogba retires, even if he stays, that means we're finished. Shut the doors. United are over. There is always a place beyond the pines, as it were. And I love Paul Pogba. I do think it's the right time for him to move on, for him and for everybody involved. But my view is just if Ralf and the club want Donny to stay, I think Donny should be starting in the team over Paul Pogba moving forward, because we have to look at the future. It'd be interesting to see how many people think that when Pogba actually returns and securing top four and everything else, because we know he's more talented. But we have to think about the future as well. Good call, my friend. Thanks for coming on this morning and having your say. Really appreciate that, buddy. Top man. Thank you very much indeed. Good call. Next up, we're going to... I'm going to speak to Lord Nelson. Long time since we spoke to Lord Nelson on the channel. Welcome back, my friend. What do you want to say? You're on mute, by the way. There we go.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, buddy. What's on your mind?
Yeah. First of all, I want to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, I think it was the wrong decision to get him back to the club. It's like we're kind of supposed to be thinking about the future, but we went back to the past. So now players like Mason Greenwood is going to lose 2 years of growth. Players like Rashford, it's not going to be the kind of player we expect him to be anymore because of this Ronaldo coming to Manchester United. Actually, it's just like when you see your icon, you know the saying, right? You don't ever meet your role model, or how they say this, yeah. Like when you meet, So like now he's lost that respect that idol like kind of view of Ronaldo. So those things, they will affect our players real bad.
You're saying you've lost your respect for Ronaldo?
Not me. I'm talking about the players like Rashford, players like Greenwood, players that look up to him and wanted to be like him. You know, when you meet your idol, you kind of lose respect for your idol, kind of, and that will kind of hinder their kind of potential where they're supposed to be at. So I think it was the wrong decision to get him back to the club. Anyways, and I think they should kind of reduce his playing time and try to talk to him not to kind of throw a fit whenever he's not picked in the team. Like his behavior is not good for the team. Actually, you have to like think as a team. You have to be part of the team. Like if you're on the bench, you have to be happy being around the team, trying to mentor the players and push us forward.
I would say this. I think Man United have had a habit of allowing. I want to see players angry when they're not picked. I want to see. I mean, look at the relationship sometimes between Mane and Mohamed Salah. Sometimes that's been tumultuous. Sometimes they've had arguments on the side of the pitch because they're born winners. I want Man United players angry not to be picked. I want Manchester United players screaming at each other. You know, there's some. There's a story that's come out where Ollie was praising the players after a defeat in the dressing room, and so reportedly Ronaldo's got. It's like, what the hell is this? We just played terribly. Why are you saying well done to us? We need to get rid of this nanny state attitude of making everybody feel good at every single moment, and we need some harsh truths. The petulance the people call Cristiano Ronaldo having or Bruno having is their desire to win. We need more of that. If everybody in the what Rooney did an interview not long ago where he said that he was shocked towards the end of his time at Manchester United because they would lose games. He'd walk back into the dressing room and people were doing TikTok videos instead of, and I've got no issue with people being on TikTok or dancing on the internet, but not after you've just been beat. How can you even be in a good enough mood to do that? The fans are not in a good mood. Winners are not in a good mood. I don't think Rashford or Greenwood have got any disrespect towards Ronaldo. I think they need to take a leaf out of his book in terms of his attitude, as far as I can see. But Nelson, thank you for calling in and having your say today. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. Next on the show, Devil's Advocate is here. Tyler's here with us this morning. What are you saying, buddy?
Big up, man. Big up, Terry, bro. Big up, man. I think with yesterday's game, I wouldn't want to say it was more of a free run, but I did not expect to draw. I was expecting Tuchel to be efficient. I was expecting Tuchel ball. I was expecting a lot of things. What I didn't expect was to nick a win, or not even nick a win, kind of like nicking a win off them. because if Werner was Lukaku, if Werner was even Danny Ings, I think they would have won because some of the angles that he was in and some of the positions he was in, it was like even the most basic of Premier League strikers would put that in, but for somehow I don't know. It must be a confidence thing with Werner. It must be, but I think we did well in terms of taking a point yesterday because I did not expect that.
Yeah.
In terms of the performance, it was crap, but I'm looking at a bigger picture, and I genuinely did not think we'd do that. So, although the performance wasn't the best, I mean, there was a lot of the times where when we had the ball, we couldn't carry the ball into their half. We were lacking a bit of innovation. I mean, that was probably down to the midfield. Personally, I wouldn't have picked that midfield. I felt like the midfield was a bit too defensive personally for me. The personnel was wrong for me personally, but we still got the points. I can't really say much. And the caretaker, Michael Carrick, and like you said before, when you were speaking before, you were saying that we need someone to take the training and stuff. So, and he has done a decent caretaker job. 1 win and then 1 draw against the Villarreal and Chelsea, which I generally did not expect.
Yeah, that's why I find the criticism of I saw what Roy Keane said yesterday, and I just thought to myself, it's really mistimed. He's not staying.
Oh, yeah.
This is what's crazy about it. And I'm doing a space later on today before the Bet Victor show because I want to speak about this in more detail. Yeah. Negativity surrounding Man United has become such a lucrative commodity that I don't think people are prepared to let it go. Carrick, I understand people's take that he and the rest of the coaching team should go, but you can't. We couldn't have got rid of everybody. There'd be nobody to coach the first team. So he had to stay. He's nicked a good win away from home in Spain, which even in Roy Keane's heyday, Man United did twice, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 times. He nicked a win there. We against all odds, we got a point away at Chelsea. So he's leaving us in a better position than many of us expected to be in for Ralf to come in. And interesting, we now go into the Ralf era where most people trust Ralf. Most people are saying Ralf's football knowledge is amazing. And I think some Man United fans have got to prepare themselves for the inevitable, that Ralf might actually think that a couple of our coaches are very good and worthwhile keeping. Ralf might think Maguire is our best centre-back. Ralf might think McTominay needs to play regularly. Ralf might think Ronaldo is actually a star player for this team. I'm not saying he will.
Yeah.
But I think some football fans have, I've heard from them, this guy is the man. Are you still going to be saying he's the man when he keeps people in employment that you say are not here for footballing reasons? They're here, a boys' club to get jobs. They're substandard football players. I'm intrigued to see that. I feel like legit, if people think the Ollie in, Ollie out era is over, they're deluding themselves. It's just going to move on to a new subject matter. It isn't going to go away. And I've seen that in Carrick short term. There's no need for negativity right now as a Man United fan. Michael Carrick isn't here to stay as manager. So however he set our team up, relax your brain. It doesn't really matter. It was going to be for 2 or 3 games. The results were the only important thing. And we've got better results in these 2 games than most predicted. So why is there negativity? Maybe it's the only way people can get attention.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the only way Roy Keane can make a headline. I just look at it and think, it's a bit. I understand the negativity in the last couple of months of Ollie, especially.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But now, why? I just find it so forced. It's weird. Even yesterday, it was
forced a bit.
Bay has to play every game now. I'm like, wait for Ralf Rangnick to get here before you start making it, because it's already they're setting up these they're setting up complaints already.
Yeah.
Bay's got to play 100% clear of this guy. I'm like, just wait for see what Ralph's going to do first. I'm putting my faith in Ralf right now.
So many people are making all these little stuff. It's like, for example, some people are saying Rashford is going to be very good under this gegenpressing system that Rangnick's going to bring, just because he's fast. I mean, people are saying Bailly and Werner is going to be the next partnership because he likes to play with 2 fast centre backs. No one knows. Although I'm not a fan of Maguire, I don't know. He might come in and be like, you know what, Maguire is going to be my main man. He might be.
I feel like there just needs to be a bit like when Chelsea had Tuchel come in, an area of open-mindedness from football fans. And the point is, we all know about football, some more than others. Football fans You know, if we're lucky, we've got a 50% accuracy ratio in predictions coming right. How do I know that? Like, even as bad as Ollie was, he still won something like 53% of his games. And every starting lineup he put out, hundreds of people would be thousands would be tweeting, "We're going to lose with that team." Half of them were wrong. More than half. Like, you're wrong more than half the time, right? So I'm just willing to see what the manager thinks. There's probably going to be some of my favorite players Ralf doesn't like, and some players that I don't think are very good that Ralf does like. But if Ralf starts playing Delo and Delo starts doing well, I'm cool with it. I'm relaxed, and I just feel like there's this. I'm just seeing this hangover of negative. It's like people don't want to let go of being negative because maybe it's how they got attention.
We're starving.
I'm talking more about the mainstream media.
Yeah,
the way they were criticizing Carrick yesterday. I'm sitting there thinking, I've never seen a caretaker manager get criticized ever in football.
Yeah,
and now we're doing it. It's mad.
I think Keane is just trying to suit the status quo, but I'm just thinking, you're overdoing it, mate. And I just think maybe he's just thinking in his head, mate, I'm starving for success. Like, he's coming to the studio and having to just kind of just make something up. So let's rip into a caretaker manager that's only going to be in for like 2 games. Like, it's already kind of been confirmed that Rangnick will be the next person. The fact that you're devoting a good 4 or 5 minute segment of kind of ripping into someone when they've kind of got a draw against the most informed team in Europe. I mean, it's a little bit weird. So for me,
when you say it out loud, it's when you say these things out loud, it's like, that's proper strange. It's just
proper weird.
And I've said that about Man United in the last few, and this is why I hope Ralf does well, because if there's more of a positive feel around the club, these things will be noticed. Some of the criticism I've seen of United managers and players in recent times, I've seen things criticized that have never been criticized before in
my life.
In football. Things that are just like, it's like, are you really saying that's football analysis? That kind of mistake happens on a regs. And I'm not necessarily defending particular players. It's just when you see things, you know, I've seen some of our players criticized for being good at tackling. Well, you shouldn't have to tackle if you're very good. But yeah, I've never seen that criticism labeled at any other defender. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I think it's how people see football. I think obviously in terms of, you know, someone like a Michael Carrick who was so good at reading the game, he was able to make clean interceptions and without actually being able to slide tackle and being actually able to put yourself someone a bit like a Busquets. I mean, it depends how people like their football. I mean, I don't really care. I just want my team to play well.
Mate,
I'm at the point where like it's been a while since I've come out of a game or finished watching a game and be like, that was a really good team performance. I can only mention like maybe 1 or 2 players that played well and the rest of them played pretty average.
I agree. And
do you know what I mean?
I totally agree. And it's how you view football. But I remember Michael Carrick getting criticism because it was like, well, what does he do in games? And it's like, just because he's not making like bone crunching tackles, he doesn't need to because he reads the game well. People discount it. But yeah, as I say, we always get criticized in such weird ways that I see other teams not. Bro, great call. Thanks for coming on and having your say.
No, I appreciate it, bro.
That, buddy. Take care, mate. Thank you very much indeed.
You too, man.
Cheers, mate. I'm going to get AJ on next. AJ, I think, is a Chelsea fan. He's a Chelsea fan, I think. We've got a super chat first. As a quick word to Jamie Vardy. Yet again, non-stop keeping pace with the best in the world, Salah, and you guys never saw it coming. We praise Jamie Vardy quite a lot on here. We were actually talking about him in the studio yesterday. He's probably one of the most underrated strikers in Premier League history. Volume of goals against the big teams, winning the Premier League, goal scoring records that he holds here as well. Like, he's a tremendous football player. I don't think anybody would deny that. AJ's now with us. AJ's a Chelsea fan. We're talking Timo Werner this morning. Does he have a future at Chelsea? What are you saying, buddy?
Well, on that topic of Timo Werner, I absolutely love Werner. I mean, I'm a FIFA player, so his stats are great. He's got really good pace. I'm seeing his stuff here for Leipzig in Germany. He does good for us. You know, we also the Champions League final because of his running and movement. Havertz was able to. He drew 2 defenders, and Havertz was able to go through with the messing that ball and score. But my point with today we're having a chat is, like, I watched the game. JORGINHO, what was that like? At halfway from that corner and tries to bring it down and completely mistouches it. I don't know, these mistakes can happen to anyone, but this guy is like a potential Ballon d'Or candidate, which we know he's not going to win it, but the fact his name's in the ring, and I just feel like that's something he should be doing. Why is he the last man? And B, after he's lost possession and the ball's gone and Sancho's gone running down, why is he still at halfway when the ball's in the back of the net? That to me.
So you're frustrated that he kind of gave up and didn't chase it back.
He did. He completely. Okay, I saw it, and he makes the challenge, but then when he's got I think Reece James is screaming down, and everyone else is screaming down from the box. He's the last man, and he doesn't even like go towards where the ball's going. It's like, man, you missed the tackle. I get it. Oh, so you missed the ball, or you made a bad touch. Keep going. Like, you've lost the ball, but you got to win it back. It's the same with because I'm a goalkeeper myself, and we do training and they're all taught if you lose the ball, you go back and you win that ball back. That's like basic, like under fives, like schoolyard stuff. He just gave up. That's where I'm like, okay, I know he doesn't have the speed. I've never really been a fan of Jorginho, to be fair, but tonight last night kind of epitomized that entire like theory I've had with him. Like, he's a good player. His passing is metronomic, as people call it. But if you watch his overall play, he's a standout player. He's good, but I just feel he's too slow. And this morning, it was like 3:40 in the morning when I was watching it this morning. So it was, for me, it just epitomized everything. He just didn't get back. There was no urgency. After he lost the ball, he just kind of stood there. And after they scored, like Sancho, to be honest, that's another thing I want to say. Sancho, good on him. First goal in the Premier League. Good to see it happen. Good young English player. Good to come through the ranks. I want to see him score. But unfortunately, it happened against my team.
I hear you on that. I hear you, bro. I get your frustrations of him in terms of that. I don't think there's any way he was going to catch him, but I do get your point there.
I don't think we can catch him, but he just, he didn't even try.
You want to see
that passion, the urge, the urgency to get there and be like, man, I fucked up, but hey, I'm gonna win it back. I'm gonna try at least get somewhere.
I hear you on that. I do hear where you're coming from with that, AJ. Top man for calling in and having your say today. Really appreciate that, buddy. All the best, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Chelsea fans, do you agree? Do you feel the same way? I want to hear from you. Taking a look at our poll this morning, 70% of you think that Chelsea should look to sell Timo Werner. 70% of the vote so far have suggested that should be the case. Vitzer here says you should turn around and chase it. Exactly. I think a lot of people would agree. Commenting from Jason says, is the phrase sucker punch? The secret football terrace phrase is not sucker punch, but that is a very good guess. Thank you very much indeed. Next on the show, we're going to speak to Chiesa's savior on the show this morning. Welcome back to the terrace. What do you want to say?
All right, Terry, just a quick one, right? Everyone's going on about Roy Keane said this, said that. One thing nobody's saying is Roy Keane stuck his neck on the line and gave it Jamie Carragher the way Jamie Carragher should get it. When Gary Neville was sat in his seat and you had Carragher and Souness putting it on him, and all Gary Neville was doing was backtracking and laughing, that's not how you defend a club. Roy Keane nearly went fisticuffs with Carragher, and you had to have Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank in the middle. That's what we need. You might say the wrong things at times, Roy Keane. He's quite controversial, but one thing he does, he has Manchester United's back. And I'm glad they brought him in, because when Gary Neville was our spokesman, when you had Souness and Carragher ripping into us, that was almost like bullying a child. Roy Keane did. I was amazed. That was TV gold. And I think we should stop saying what Roy Keane's saying about Carrick, because, to be honest, I think where Roy Keane was getting at is, why didn't you say, Carrick say, these are the same guys that threw Solskjaer under the bus. Why didn't they do it for Solskjaer? Why are they doing it for me instead of trying to get all the praise? And I think that's where Keane was going with things, but maybe it was missaid. Well, that's what I think he was trying to get out of it.
Yeah, look, I don't have an issue with all the things that Roy Keane says, and I get your point. And I saw the sort of Ronaldo conversation, etc. Again, I think the Ronaldo criticism is forced and misguided from people. This notion that he makes us a worse team, yet I just don't think that it. I just don't think that it is. And Ronaldo in the right setup and in the right team is going to be absolutely deadly for people for teams still. And I think that a top class coach is going to get that out of him. I just sometimes feel like that. I get that he wants to see Carrick kind of have a go at these players as an example. I think the one thing that Roy Keane is missing is that public criticism of players in the modern day game tends to not end well. Whether we like it or not, it just doesn't go down well in dressing rooms. People don't like it. He's literally also there for 2 games. It's a case of what's the mileage in it? The mileage in him doing that, there isn't any. It's like, why rock the apple cart before the new coach comes in? I get Roy Keane's point, but in practicality, in reality, it doesn't make sense to do that. Where the club needs to get better, based on what we've heard come out from some credible sources, is there needs to be players held to account more in the dressing room. They can't be allowed to get off the hook sort of scot-free. Probably one of the reasons why they carried on playing for Ollie is because he wasn't tough enough at times with them. He didn't rip into them enough at times when maybe he should have done. And I think Ralph's got to get that balance right. So I totally agree with you there. In terms of Ralph coming in, we haven't spoke about that. How happy are you with that as a United fan?
To be honest, mate, I'm going to sound a little bit stupid here. I don't really know much about Ralph and managing because the way football's gone now, Teddy, mate, my interests are what they once was. Like, I'm watching Manchester United just penetrating the opposition half. And I'm in the kitchen making a brew and a sandwich, and I hear the United crowd scream, "Yeah!" I'm thinking, what? Are we near the goal? This is what United's become over 3 years, 4 years. They're not giving us what we used to enjoy. And I'm not being a glory hunter. And I know the City fans are going to say, "Oh, United are glory hunters." No, but we want that United thing back. It's not, if you score a goal, we're going to come back at you like Brazil used to or something like that. We're not going to go 2-0 down, 3-0 down. And it's got better over the last few games. But I still think Roy Keane's right in what you're saying. We're Manchester United. This isn't acceptable. What's going to go with Sancho on a mistake? That's all we did. If you can say United did something great in that game, I don't know what you was watching because I wasn't watching. I wanted to turn the game off at half time today, and this is what's been happening for a few years now. I'm getting bored of United within the first 10 minutes of the game.
Mate, I agree with you on that, and this season it's gone from bad to worse, and you've seen, you've seen, for instance, Bruno Fernandes. We're not creating very many chances for him. I don't think he's had a shot on target in 2 months. Like, his creativity has been there. People do forget, the most creative player in Europe this season in terms of chances created, quite a large amount of stats across the Prem and the Champions League. Literally, he's two assists away from being the all-time highest assister in a single season in the Champions League already, and we're not even at the group stages yet. But we need to create more chances. We need more movement in our attack. We need to be more dynamic and exciting. And what I found interesting is both Tuchel, I think Bastian Schweinsteiger was on TV yesterday. They both asked the same question around, does this Man United team look like a Ralf Rangnick team? And they just sort of laughingly said no. So that fills me with an air of confidence that there is going to be a change. And the hope then is, if we're doing things right as a club, Ralph then can elevate us to that next level. And then you bring in the next manager who can then just take that further with Ralph running things from behind the scenes. So I completely agree with the way we play football. I won't be happy in 12 months' time if we're playing like we were against Chelsea yesterday in all of our big games. In the short term, up against that Chelsea team, in the context of Ollie being sacked and no manager, happy with the result. But we now need a step change. With this squad, Man United fans have to demand the football's better and the results are better on a more regular basis. Great man, top man for the call, mate. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, sir. Comment here from Sharik, my guy. Says Bruno literally doing his job as a 10, but now that he's not scoring, it's a shambles. His performances do need to improve whilst creating these chances. Of course, they've got to improve. I don't think nobody has been great for Man United in this last couple of months. There isn't a shadow of a doubt. And Bruno is not exempt from that, and he deserves criticism within that. He still had output levels in that time period. And I'm pretty sure we'll see him come alive again. It's the I think he's gone something like 14 games now without a goal, which is the longest gap he's had in 4 years. But he'll come good in terms of output. Like, for someone who's having a bad season, I swear he's played something like 19 games and has got like 12 or 13 goal contributions, which is still one of the highest goal contributing midfielders in European football. So it's not terrible, but it's also a case of he does need to improve, and Man United need him to, and we'll see what happens. And under Ralph when he joins, and it's he's not exempt from criticism, Bruno Fernandes. But if the likes of Pogba and Ronaldo and Cavani and Greenwood and Donny are all being starved because of the recent manager and tactics, we have to apply that logic cannot exist without it being applied to Bruno Fernandes and others. But we'll see. Let's do one last call here. We're going to speak to Sarim here. What you say, Liverpool fan? What you saying, buddy?
Hey, bro, you're right.
I'm very well. What's on your mind, my friend?
Yeah, I just want to talk about Chelsea. I think you were saying was it Thursday when you did the preview that this was going to be the first time in God knows how long that Chelsea played after City and Liverpool.
Correct.
And it's pretty interesting that the first time they played the first time that's happened this season, they didn't look like themselves. They just looked like they were scared. They didn't want to get hurt on the counter. They knew what United were going to do, and I think they had enough to blow them away, but they just looked like they were playing within themselves. And they only actually started playing when they conceded the goal. And then once they get that penalty, it kind of went, it was like they started throwing the kitchen sink at it because they knew that they're going to drop points at this rate. And I just feel like this title race is going to be a lot more interesting than I originally thought it was going to be. I thought Liverpool would fall off around Jan time, and then March, it'll probably be a slugfest between City and Chelsea and die out around then. But this is going to look a lot closer than it is, and I'm kind of excited for it, if I'm being honest.
Do you know what I would say about it is this? I don't feel like, even though I've got a team I picked to win it, what I think the rivals of those teams, like Liverpool and City fans, have read that as Terry's writing us off, we're rubbish. No, I don't think anyone's falling off. I think everybody's in it until the last game or two.
No, definitely. I've changed my mind this season about Liverpool as well. Like, I thought AFCON would kill us, and I still potentially think they can. But like the way, like, for example, Salah's playing, it's like he's on a mission himself. Like last season, he's took it personally, like the Michael Jordan quotes. He's taken that personally, and then this season he's taken Ronaldo coming in, taking it as personally, like I am the best here, and I'm going to prove my worth. And
Yeah,
he's just been on a
no
mission.
doubt. No,
And I
no
think
doubt.
that'll help us.
Mate, it certainly will the way you're playing. And if your defense stays as resolute as it's been in the last 3 games, it becomes an even harder task for City and Chelsea, no doubt. Bro, great call. Thanks for coming on and having your say this morning. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Lewis here says, Bruno is always going to have stats, but there's a reason United are the only elite club that wanted him. It's not like we unearthed a gem. Jurgen Klopp wanted to sign him. Poch wanted him at Tottenham. Barcelona inquired and he said no. So we weren't the only elite club, but there's no doubt his performances need to improve. There is no doubt that his performances need to improve. But like I've said, the team's been playing badly for the last 2.5 months. There's been barely a player that's come in and done well. So let's wait. Let's wait. I'm pretty sure that if the team improves under Ralf, you'll see him go back to his goal scoring best. You know, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is sometimes. But as I say, he's not exempt from criticism. He deserves it. I just think what's interesting is certain players are written off when we play badly. Told you they're rubbish, where others get defended with, it's the manager's system. I don't understand why that doesn't apply to all players, and nobody seems to want to answer that element. But there we go. Everyone who's tuned in this morning to the phone-in show, thank you. Smash the like button before you leave. We're back later today with more content. The Bet Victor Show, 6 p.m. we go live. Make sure you're all back for that. It's going to be an amazing, I think quite an emotional night as well. So make sure you're tuning in later on the Terrace, and we'll see you all again soon.